Clay and Bill are not here for various Clay and Bill reasons. Clay asked me to talk about the West Pecan show. Um, so the West Pecan show has room for 12 pictures if they're 16 by 20 frames, and which is kind of our standard size, possibly more if they're slightly smaller. They don't want anything bigger than that. We're hanging those on the 22nd, which is 1 week after the library hanging. They'll be up for 1 month. So from May 22nd to June 22nd, the hanging time is 3:40 to 4:15 p.m. It's kind of a tight window, but that's what we're doing. And he asked me to collect the names of anybody who might be interested. Do we have a gallery or for them, Ed, yet for the West Pecan show?
I thought one was set up for submissions.
Okay. So then
Get it taken care of in the next day or so.
yeah, because we have to have those up pretty quick. So look for just like it was with the library show, a gallery to submit to, and room for 12 pictures, assuming standard sizes.
What size pictures?
16 by 20 frames.
Okay.
We pretty standard do 11 by 14 pictures in a 16 by 20 frame.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any specific topic?
No specific topic. It's going into a coffee shop, so if it makes people drink coffee, you're more likely to get invited back.
Yeah, the library, so it's going to be a reception for that, or?
I don't know anything about the reception. We're still trying to kind of sort of organize that. But when we know more, we will announce that. Jonathan's been working to get together a list of people who were interested in doing it. That'll be in the morning on the 15th. And I will send an email out later this week, but it'll be like 11 to 1 or something like that. Not this week, next week. Yeah, the 15th. Anything else? And Clay was really worried about us not getting along without our name tag, so make sure that you at least identify one person by name today.
Today. Really?
Let's get started. So we're doing patterns in nature, and I will run through the images, and then we'll come back and do the judge's critique. Okay. So this is beginner. We got 5 images. Great. First one is spring beauty or weed. Vortex of petals. Blooming in cycles. Ridges of the tympanic. And Fibonacci in motion. Go back. And we can start with spring, beauty, or weed.
Okay, that's mine. So this is definitely a weed, but there's nothing wrong with weeds. They make wonderful pictures, and they can be unique and different. This one is a nice picture. It's a little dark on this screen, but the background has a nice palette to the color of the weed. It's a thistle, I believe. And I like the cropping of it. I like it's a little off center a little bit. That keeps my mind working on what's going on here. The thing I think could be improved here, since it's so dark here on my monitor, it showed that those lighter areas on the flower were blown out, and I couldn't see anything but white. And so I thought, well, it's a little overexposed, and that kind of distracts from the picture. And the other distractions I saw were the bright white spots and up above, and the bright spot down below. Other than that, it's a nice picture, nice color palette, and basically, I think you could improve it by if you took different lighting at a different time of day, possibly, or use a different exposure so that you're not blowing out those highlights as much.
Okay. Next, we have Vortex of Petals.
And that one's mine. I just want to say that I did as best as I could to judge these according to the theme, the impact, the story, the technical aspect of composition and competition, or I mean composition. So we'll see how this goes. So the patterns in nature theme is strongly represented in this photo by the spirals, radial symmetry, and alternating color theme. This is a creative representation of a flower's center and an intriguing view. The choice of a square crop keeps the viewer's focus and shows some inner workings of nature. Focus is sharp throughout. Water droplets are noted and add interest. The impact of this story is the striking repetition of patterns. Removing the small pieces of pollen may strengthen the story's impact. I feel the photographer was successful in representing this month's theme.
Next, we have Blooming in Cycles.
All right, I critique on this one. I thought it was lovely. I like the lilac and the mid-tone greens. I thought they worked really well together with the touches of maroon. Small details of the flower buds are very eye-catching and consistent with the pattern for the month. Appreciate that they left the little spider webs in there. You can see them at the very bottom. It just adds a really cool level of detail to it. A little easier to see when you're looking on your computer versus the screen, but these little delicate webs kind of throughout are kind of cool. Might suggest a slightly higher shutter speed to capture more of the details of the flowers themselves. There's those blooming ones that are sticking up out of the center flower in particular, and the tops of those are a little blurry. So maybe a little bit higher shutter speed there. But overall, very nice. Love the depth of field. And I thought it was a very good submission for the theme this month.
Next is Ridges of the Tympanic.
So it's a very close-up shot of an Anole lizard. And at first I was trying to figure out where's the center of focus on this, because I got the eye or I got the ear hole here. And then so I went and looked up the word tympanic and find out, oh, that's a word associated with eardrum. So I'm guessing that the focus should be on that ear hole there and the patterns around it a little bit, which kind of explains the cropping of the picture a little bit. I think there's very interesting patterns here, nice colors. I wish that he had cropped a little more of the eye into the picture, or she or whoever did the photographer did a little more picture of the eye. I think that would have balanced out the picture a little bit more. But the photo, initially the photo plays with your mind a little bit, trying to figure out, well, what part of the lizard am I looking at and which way is the lizard actually focused and going? So it plays games with you, but it's a nice representation of patterns and shapes and colors. I would have liked to have seen it cropped a little bit differently to get rid of some of the distractions in the far left-hand top corner. And as I spoke before, I'd like to have seen a little bit more of the eye there, because I think it adds to the textures and the patterns of the overall lizard. Basically, it's a nice representation of patterns, though, in our strategy this month.
Good. And next is Fibonacci in Motion.
So the pattern represented here is a Fibonacci spiral found in the snail's shell. Good job, good title. This is an endearing capture showing the snail's progress across the palette. Technically, I find the zone of focus appears to be off the shell. It's more of the shell and the wood shavings below, and so therefore making the top of the snail and the posterior eye stalk out of focus. Looking from at the photo from the distance, everything is a shade of brown, which makes me want more contrast in this photo.
Okay. It's the 5 images. Now we can do judge's choice. Okay. So we have honorable mention, Fibonacci in motion, Jerry Murphy. And then in third place, we have Blooming in Cycles, Austin Lane. I think Austin's on if you want to say anything, Austin.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So this is in our backyard. I believe this is a Greg's mist flower. My wife has been hard at work planting a whole bunch of great flowers. So I'm basically just out there every day with a macro lens, just seeing what's going on in her garden. And I just thought the pattern of the way this was blooming. So you have like going from closed to open up with these cotton balls, and then even within those clusters, then they seem to be opening from the outside inwards. Like there are just sort of multiple things going on here in kind of an interesting way. So it just caught my eye.
Thank you. And in second, we have Ridges of the Tympanic, Christopher Umstead. And then in first place, we have Vortex of Petals, Leslie Eeg. You want to say something, Leslie? You're muted. You're still muted.
There, can you hear me?
There. Yes.
All right. I took this at Hill Country I forget the name of it, Hill Country Watercolor Water Gardens. And I went there with another club member, and I hate to admit it, I forgot my SD cards. So I pulled out my cell phone. This is a cell phone picture. And I took it into Photoshop and I twirled it. And that's how I got it.
Nice.
Nice.
Thank you. Okay. And then do people's choice. Okay, we got 3. Bronze, Blooming in Cycles, Austin Lane. Silver, Ridges of the Tympanic, Christopher Umstead. And gold, Vortex of Petals, Leslie. Lined up. This is the first time it ever happened.
Your best phone is your best picture is your
Your best camera.
camera you got with you.
Yeah.
All right, go to intermediate. Okay, we've got 8. All right, we've got multiple feeding stations available. Mexican hat. In search of breakfast. Pattern in avocet chaos. Interweaving. Fluorescent green veins. Patterns delicately unfurling. And top down. Go back to the beginning. I'll start off with multiple feeding stations available.
So that one is mine. So overall, very good image. Definitely hits the pattern. Love the repeating pattern in 3D. I thought that was kind of interesting. And the pattern is clearly the star of the photo, which is good when you have a theme. Did a great job of capturing the details of the different sections of flower, really highlighting the complexity of the flower, and the detail, kind of all the sides and the center is really well done. There wasn't an area that was really out of focus on this one. The setting choice ensures a solid level of light and depth. In terms of suggestions for next time, we talked about removing some of the distracting elements on the outside of the photos. There's some stuff in the lower left, a little bit up on the corners that can pull your eye away from the pattern. So we thought maybe kind of either darkening that or taking it out might be a good idea. We also had a discussion about the bee on the top. The theme is about feeding stations, and right up the top near the green, there's a little bee half sticking out. And so if you're going to put it in the theme title, you probably need to make sure that it's really obvious somewhere and have it up on that top edge. And it's pretty dark where you could really miss it. We weren't sure how much value that was adding, and maybe the title should have been something different that didn't emphasize the bee as a part of it. It was a clever idea, but you either need to lighten the bee and really kind of highlight it or leave it alone. Other than that, we thought it was a really great image for the theme this month.
Thank you. Next is Mexican hat.
In this picture, there's multiple patterns here. You have the petal patterns of the yellow circles with different sizes, and then the concentric circle within the center part of the flower. And I think that's where the focus of the patterns really shines best. It's nice color combinations, complementary colors, greens and yellows. The center pattern is a little darker. It could have been a little lighter, exposed. And I would consider more of a square crop. You don't see the top part here in this picture because we're kind of chopping it off, but that moved it up a little bit more, made it more center to the overall picture. And I would have toned down the background a little bit and highlighted that center cone part where the pattern really shines out. And other than that, it's a nice picture, but it's not a Mexican hat. It's a black-eyed Susan, I think.
Thank you. In Search of Breakfast.
We looked at this and we saw multiple patterns. In this photo, we saw patterns in the bird's feathers, in the ripples, in the water. So the title doesn't really help tell us what exactly the maker wanted us to observe for patterns. This is a beautiful picture of a green heron. There are no distracting elements. The bird is well placed in the frame. Colors and shapes, it's hard to tell on here. It was questionably possible that they were over-processed a little bit, but don't go by this monitor at all. So just lots of patterns if we didn't know exactly what to look at.
Next is pattern in Avocet Chaos.
So my critique, I couldn't see it today. Can you guys see it?
I don't know.
Okay, because it was missing. Like, I don't know if it's missing or I got locked out of it.
Just on the
On the
visual
website.
pursuits.
Yes, I wrote it. I could see all my other ones, but I couldn't see this one.
I don't know. I didn't
So-
look. but
Okay, yeah, if you guys want to take a peek and see
Yeah, I
if it's
can look at
missing,
it
I can
after.
resubmit it or
Yeah.
something. I just want to make sure it doesn't get not done.
Yeah.
So what I remember that we talked about was we thought this is a very interesting play on the theme of pattern, because the more you look at it, the more you see. Because you've got the obvious direction of the birds, then you've got the shadows, you've got the coloring on the wings, and then there's also a vertical pattern that kind of layers on this one too. So the more you look at it, the more you like it. Was kind of the effect that it seemed to have on all of us. We did have a conversation. It's nice and crisp front to back, so the capture of the group is very good. We did talk about trying to create more spacing around the edge, because there's some spacing on the top and bottom. You really can't see it on the top with the toolbar up there, but there's about an inch on the top and an inch on the bottom. And then if you kind of had that same sort of spacing on the sides, we thought it would better balance the photo visually from a composition standpoint. And then there was also a suggestion to selectively lighten a few of the birds a bit to create a little more depth, because it is a bit flat when you look at the group. And so if you create a little more tone difference between the birds, we thought that might make it a little more eye-catching. But overall, we thought it was very consistent with the theme. We liked the reflections. We liked we like the idea for sure.
Next is interweaving.
So the patterns here is the bald cypress roots woven together and reflected into the water. And that becomes the main topic of this picture. The trees on the riverbank and the cool water provide depth to the picture, and it pushes your eyes back to the main focus of the interwoven tree patterns. I think there's a couple of changes I would recommend that would improve the overall focus on the roots. Maybe crop it down to a much smaller focus, just since our pattern is on the roots. I also think that the tree roots are a little bit overexposed, and so you don't see as much texture in the root system as possible. And I would possibly crop out to narrow the focus back down on the roots and all that. Other than that, it's a very nice pattern picture, nice, lovely nature photo.
Thank you. Fluorescent green veins.
I find this photo visually striking. The pattern represented here is branching of structures coming from a central point, divided into smaller points. The lines demonstrate movement and flow. The fluorescence illustrates the lifeblood of the leaf. So therefore, that's the story to me. Upon close examination, the choice in aperture leaves areas blurry. Clarity throughout would be desirable in this particular photo. The lighting is uneven and unbalanced, with the upper right area being dark and the lower portion being bright. And unfortunately, that's where the blur is really predominant, in the lower part. Composition is strong, with the center branch of the leaf placed to the right of center and traveling diagonally through the photo. In summary, this photo has a good story, strong impact, strong composition, and creativity, but technically needs improvement.
Okay. Patterns delicately unfurling.
So this is a very nice picture of an oyster mushroom growing on a tree. I've never seen one that's quite as good shape as that. I guess you gotta walk around a lot more. It's got a nice soft brocade background and keeps your eyes focused on the tightly packed grills. The highlights and shadows and the tonal quality of the mushroom gills provide good contrast and maintains the focus on the subject. The soft green background provides a very pleasing contrast to the oyster shell. I feel the slight outer edges of the mushroom are a little overexposed and could provide better separation from the soft background, and maybe the background should be toned down just a little bit, so your eyes aren't pulled away from the oyster. You might change the angle of the camera a little bit, but other than that, I felt like this was a well-composed picture. The color palette's very wonderful. I would have liked to see the tree in focus or darkened down just a little bit more.
Okay. And top down.
I thought this one was a well-executed image. We like the cooler color tones and how they played together in this image with the choices of the green and the blue. And we thought they were very striking together. The strongest level of detail in this photo is in the center on those purplish stem things. Sorry, I don't know flower anatomy. And all the way down to like the little hairs that you can see on those. That was very well done. Biggest suggestion on this one is how it relates to the theme, because we found ourselves wondering what specific pattern, we wanted to focus on, because there's an outside sort of pinwheel going, there's the white flowers, there's the center. The center is the sharpest part of the image. So the outside flower is not, it gets softer on the edges. So if you really want to emphasize the flower part itself all the way to the edges, our suggestion would be to make that a little crisper so it's more obvious, and also lighten it up a little bit around the darker blue sections, because your eye's really drawn to that center where the stems are and not the rest of it. So it felt like there were some editing choices in terms of light and focus that could have strengthened this image. But overall, we thought it was a very nice one and a good choice for this month.
Let's go to judge's choice. All right. Honorable mention, interweaving, Arlie Pfeifer.
This was taken on one of our photo walks to Rio Vista, which is in a park in San Marcos. And there's just all these beautiful cypress trees along in the river and whatnot. And I've actually cropped this one down. I didn't crop it enough, obviously. But I just thought the branches of the the roots of the cypress are just rather interesting to me as they kind of move all the way through the water and then, you know, the air and stuff like that. So I just thought it was a cool picture.
Watercolor's pretty too.
Hmm?
The watercolor's pretty too.
The water was good.
Makes you want to jump right in, doesn't it?
You can farther on down.
Okay. In third place, we have Patterns in Avocet Chaos, Dave DeVore.
And I was there when he took that picture. Okay.
Was it taken?
This is in it's Aransas Pass. There is the Leona Turnbull Reserve, whatever,
Yes.
natural.
Aransas. Yeah.
It's yeah, well, whichever one is on the other side of the pass. But it's a cool place to go look at birds.
So what the
Avocets are
spoonbills
always there. A Leona Turnbull.
Is that what the spoonbills are?
There were this year, but that's the first time I've seen them there.
Mm.
There are also lots of pelicans and white pelicans a lot, and other birds. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a sanitation plant, but they have really built up the walkways, and it's wonderful just to be able to walk around the whole area and be able to take pictures or look at birds and all this kind of stuff. So.
Could you say again, where is it?
It's in Port Aransas. It's Leona Turnbull.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right off the road that goes to the ferry. There's
Yeah, it's very close to once you get onto the island. So. And we kind of, Dave has a group, we all kind of go like about every year, and right after the Whooping Cranes Festival.
Yep.
And so, you know, we go looking for whooping cranes, but
There
you
is
know,
a pair of whooping cranes that hang around that area.
yeah,
You can get them if you got a really good telephoto lens.
yeah. So usually we find the whooping cranes out on the bay area or the intercoastal waterway. But yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. In second, we have Patterns Delicately Unfurling, Lydia.
Well, this was like an ugly looking thing when I walked by it. It's about this big, it was sticking off a tree. The top of it was just gross. And I don't know why, but I decided to look underneath it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of pretty. So I ran home, took the dogs home, and ran back with my camera. It was probably like this far above the ground, so I had to lay down on the ground and shoot up at it. So the angle's not great, but there was not a lot I could do about that. And I was more worried about fire ants than anything else. So I got what I got. I tried to patch the tree. I tried doing all sorts of things, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I just left it. So, but yeah, teaches you to look under things, I guess.
Thank you.
You get the pattern of red bumps all over.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And then in first, multiple feeding stations available, Jim McDaniel. So,
And now you can see the bee up top.
Yeah. But it did take looking for the V in order, you know, it doesn't just kind of
Mhm.
like stand out, I guess.
But you can see the theme with the idea what he had in mind now.
Yeah.
okay, we can go to People's Choice. Okay, and bronze, patterns delicately unfurling, Lydia. And second is for silver, patterns and avocet chaos, David Vore. And gold, fluorescent green veins, Ray Hicks. We can go to advanced. All right, 9 images. Start off with Acrobat of the Shallows. Natural Notation. Moraine Ripples in Antarctic Ice. Nature's Amphitheater. Looking Up. The Harbinger. The Phantom Ship. A Shrubbery in Black and White. And Pleated Reverie. Back to the top. Start off with Acrobat of the Shallows.
I got this one. Thought this one was a very clever idea. As we were talking about it, we think it's the same, multiple shots of the same bird running, and then merged together. And it was very well done because you really can't see where the merges are. So the assembly of it was quite good. Love the pink and the gray and the blue together. Makes a nice light, cool color tone together. We thought the setting choices were perfect for capturing the birds themselves, and the blurring of the water behind them really focuses on the birds. So there's no unnecessary detail in the background. The cropping was a really interesting choice. When you see this one, like not on the screen, it's kind of very well spaced, and with the long cropping, the way it's done, it really focuses on what you're trying to emphasize, which is the pattern of the birds going across. We thought it was a very unique play on the theme, creating a pattern with one subject in motion. And we thought it was overall very well done.
Next is Natural Notation.
Okay, the pattern here for me is the branching pattern. Again, there's a main branch, even though it's minimally seen in this photo, it's there. I don't think the viewer really needs to see more of it. The branches continue to divide into smaller branches. The birds have patterns in their leaves, or I mean in their feathers and spacing, but that's kind of naturally irregular. I feel the tree branches speak to this month's theme better than the birds do. The birds tell a fun and impactful story of gathering, migration, and community. For the technical aspects of this photo, the monochromatic treatment is nice and keeps the viewer looking for patterns and not distracted by colors. I feel like on this monitor, there's not as much contrast as we saw on our own computer monitors and stuff. But there is sharp focus throughout, and it is compositionally successful, except for the very bottom where we see one bird partially cut off. Thinking about that, it would be nice to see a little bit more of the branch, maybe take away 1 or up to 3 birds at the bottom to allow there to be spacing in the photo.
Okay. Next is Moraine Ripples and Antarctic Ice.
So what initially looks like a rock is actually ice. So if anybody else didn't get that. So we thought it was a pretty amazing choice for theme because of the direction of the swirls and the flowing of it. It's pretty cool to look at, especially if you've got it on your computer as opposed to the screen. The detail's nicely captured with the setting choices. The black and white does a great job of emphasizing the pattern, which is the star of the image. The future thought is around the texture, clarity, and contrast. If you take this image and you download it and you play with those levers in Lightroom, you get some very striking changes on this image. If you de-emphasize the black grid a little bit, you almost get a flowing kind of softer swirling, which is kind of striking. And there were several options that I was getting playing with it that were quite pretty. And I think if you crop out that bottom part and just really focus on the pattern and then adjust those settings, I think this image has a lot of potential to be just beautiful. I think that's everything we had. So overall, a very solid image, and I think it has a lot of future use in it too.
Yep, thank you. Nature's Amphitheater.
So this is a close-up capture of weathered growth rings on either a stump or maybe a post that's been in the ground for a long time, about my age probably. The side lighting coming from the left side of the picture going across, and you see the shadows there, adds a lot of texture, and I think it adds the depth of field, adds to the depth of field, and it gives you that look of the amphitheater pattern of the circular going down. I think the focus is a little bit soft, and I wish the little brown spots were scattered throughout the, I don't know if you could have blown those off before you took the picture or you could clone them out, but that's a little bit distracting from the overall pattern. And one possibility might be to crop it down, to remove that part of it and just have an amphitheater that's going one way where the front of the amphitheater is here and the stage is back that way. It's possible cropping, but other than that, nice pattern, nice shadow exposures through that, but a little soft, I think.
Okay, next is Looking Up.
The contrast of the red leaves against the dappled background draw me in. The repeating pattern of and branching are themes strongly represented in this, in the leaves. The bokeh is nice and soft. The colors are stunning. The leaves are sharp and focused. Compositionally, I love how the photographer chose to bring the line of the branch in from the corner, drawing the viewer into the photo. The view is only of the leaves. The title is good as I find myself looking up to include the rest of the world around me. The only suggestion for improvement we talked about might be to darken the bokeh a little bit to keep the viewer focused on the leaves. I think this is a very successful photo. I don't think this monitor is doing it any justice because I think there's more green in that bokeh, but it's beautiful.
Thank you. Next is The Harbinger.
So I thought this one was captivating. I mean, it just immediately draws your eye in. I would absolutely put this on my wall at home and love it every day. The subject's strong and well edited. Setting choices are chosen to capture the smallest of details, as you can see the little hairs on the plant, and it's quite striking. Biggest question here is whether this image strongly meets the intention of the competition theme. If the pattern is supposed to be the star of the image, what is the pattern being emphasized? And we had a lot of discussion because we weren't sure what specifically we should be looking at. And would it be better used in a different competition? Another suggestion for future use would be get the frontmost pieces of the subject in focus. If you look at the, for lack of a better term, the little arm things coming off, the tips on a few of them are not in focus. There's one right in the front towards the right that's out of focus, that's kind of going horizontally as an example. And this can be distracting from what otherwise is a very, very captivating photo. So possibly addressing that would make this a stronger image. Let's see. Overall, really loved it.
Yep, thank you. Next is the Phantom Ship.
So this photo made me add another place to my bucket list that I have to go to. Appropriately named because the Phantom Shiprock there in Crater Lake in the water is definitely that blue, is my understanding. The overall technical aspects of the photo are really good and sharp focus on throughout the entire photo. It captures the nice color contrast between that deep blue, the greens, and the lighter blue of the skies and the grays of the rocks. I feel that the lack of clouds and a direct on shot of the rock leaves it a little bit flat. And then the biggest issue we had is whether or not this maps into the pattern focus of this month's competition. Is the pattern in the rocks? Is the pattern in the trees? So I felt like it didn't get as high a rating because of that fact that we couldn't map it into the pattern of this month's competition. Other than that, it's an excellent photo, very technically well done, nice color palette.
Okay. And next we have a shrubbery in black and white.
As to theme, there's a very strong element of repeating patterns throughout. The black leaves with the white edges are striking and make me ask how the maker created this effect. This is highly creative. The subject fills the frame, and there's a three-dimensional aspect to the photo. You can see that there are leaves on top and leaves underneath. Focus is mostly sharp throughout. It breaks down a little bit on the edges. I'm not sure that is a problem on this photo. I feel like it doesn't matter. And I just think this is a very fascinating presentation and speaks to theme.
Okay. Next is Pleated Reverie.
We like the thought on this image. The subject choice was very in line with the theme, like the focus on the single subject because it really emphasizes the pattern itself. The water droplets add interest and detail without competing. The focus is a bit soft, which might be worth experimenting with a slightly higher shutter speed or using a tripod of handheld. Other suggestion is around composition. Rather than taking this head on, it might have been interesting to come at it from an angle a little bit, get a little more depth and height on those water droplets, and then also possibly get some of those little threads, because sometimes they do some curling. So there might have been some composition choices other than dead on that might have made it more striking, but overall we felt it was a solid choice for this one.
Thank you. All right. Let's go to judge's choice. Okay. So we have a tie for honorable mention. So the first is Natural Notation, Ty Lehman. And the other honorable mention is Nature's Amphitheater, Shelton Malazar.
I can't believe we all want to people. Imagination.
Is that an old stump or a post?
Was that last which we went down San Antonio emissions.
Nice. All right, and third we have Acrobat of the Shallows, Cheryl Cowan. Second, a shrubbery in black and white, Gary Hook.
Probably not.
Somebody's online.
Yeah.
No, I'll take the microphone.
We have a few people online. So.
It's for the people online anyway, so.
Yeah, I'll grab the microphone. So we've all seen pictures of leaves and stuff that are high contrast with the black and white. And so I've always had that in my mind as I've wandered about. And one day I found a bush that actually lent itself to the idea. So mostly it was a challenge for me to be able to take the pattern of the leaves and create something that was just very basically black and white. And I felt pretty good about it, but I appreciate the award. Thank you very much. So yeah, getting ideas and walking around is the takeaway, right? Keeping your eye open for things that might present themselves to you.
I don't understand better how did you do this effect? How did you throw down the whole leaf and just, I don't understand.
Okay. That's a good question. So most people think, well, a lot of Photoshop, but actually this is all contrast. This is all just driving the contrast to separate the whites and the blacks as much as possible. So I think the curve is probably very vertical in there. It really wasn't anything but just focusing on the contrast. And then of course it's black and white. I think the bush was a dark green originally. But yeah, contrast.
Interesting.
Use the high pass filter.
Pardon?
I'll use the high pass filter.
Yeah.
Okay, and then first place is Looking Up, Goodness Bosserman.
Well, this was taken at Garvin Woodlands Gardens in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I had my 105 macro lens, and because I thought I was going to take pictures of flowers in this garden, and I happened to look up, and here was this wonderful light shining down on this Japanese maple tree with the red patterns and the greens and the bouquet pattern of the light coming down, and looking for patterns, just looking around, and that happened to spot and show up.
Beautiful.
All right, and then we'll go to People's Choice. Okay, we had ties here. So first we have bronze. There's a tie. So we had Moraine, Ripples, and Antarctic Ice, Nick Grossman. And the other bronze is Looking Up, Dennis Bosserman. Then we have a tie for silver. So the first is Natural Notation, Ty Lehman. And Nature's Amphitheater, Shelton Mazza. And then in gold is a shrubbery in black and white. Yeah. And that's it.
There we go.
We did that.
You guys.
So quick reminder to everybody online, everybody here, we have a photo walk on, gonna head out to Lampasas on Saturday morning. If you're free and available and want to join us, we're meeting by the county courthouse at 9 a.m. Walk around for a while.
But
Okay?
it really helped
Cool.
to